wanted to talk today. Drew again is with Bearwise Landscapers Insurance Company, and we've talked to you before about the equipment floater policy. But Drew wanted to get a little bit more in depth as to what that policy details and what you need to be looking for when you go to your insurance agent to discuss that policy. So, Drew, give us a little more insight on equipment floater insurance.
Yeah, we touched on this just briefly in a previous video, but equipment floater insurance is designed to protect your equipment and to protect your business from loss of that equipment. And within those policies, an equipment floater policy, the important thing to keep in mind is that these policies are not standard across the industry. Each insurance carrier is going to have a different policy form, different terms and conditions of that policy because it's not a standard insurance policy. And an example of a standard insurance policy would be your general liability insurance policy, or whether you go with Travelers Insurance Company or Hartford Insurance Company, the policy documents, the coverages that you get in the mail with your policy are going to be the exact same wording, the exact same policies between both insurance carriers. And so when you're comparing coverages on those policies and you've got the same coverages on both, you can really look and see and know that you're comparing the apples to apples. But when you look at the equipment floater insurance coverage, it's important to look at what's actually covered underneath those policies, because some insurance carriers will not cover theft or only cover theft by endorsement, and some automatically include theft on there, and there's some other provisions as well on those policies.
And if you'll look into the future, Drew is going to actually dissect a policy for us by physically being able to go in there and show you how to read your policy and understand these limits. It's hard for guys in our business. I mean, we cut grass for a living. We're professionals in that arena, and for us to go to our agent and be able to understand that there are significant differences between the equipment floater. What do we ask for? What do you think we should be saying to our insurer to say this is what I want?
I think that's exactly right. You should have a list of questions that when you're comparing insurance quotes from different insurance carriers on your equipment floater policy, and when you're just looking at your equipment floater renewal, to ask specific questions to your agent, because keep in mind that your insurance agent does get a percentage of your premium on every policy that you have written through their agency, and so they are getting paid for their work, and so you should request things from them, such as explanation of what you're actually purchasing. And within that, there's a few things that I'd like for you to keep in mind when looking at equipment floater insurance. And the first thing, which we briefly mentioned earlier, is if theft is covered on that policy. That's your primary concern, that's your primary exposure as a lawn maintenance contractor, is theft on those policies, and you want to make sure that that is covered. Your second thing would be asking what else is covered on that policy. What other exposures? Is fire covered? If I get in an auto accident, I have the equipment in the back of my trailer, and it's damaged during the auto accident, is that equipment going to be covered in that case? Your third thing is deductibles on the insurance policy. This is something that varies completely. Your average equipment floater deductible is around $500 per occurrence. But you need to find out, is that per each item on the policy, or is that per an actual occurrence like a theft, stealing of a whole bunch of equipment? Is it just one $500 deductible, or are you going to have to pay a $500 deductible on each piece of equipment? And then also within that, the amount of deductible can be different. You can have a $500 deductible, you can have a $1,500 deductible, or a $2,500 deductible, and you need to have some idea of what to expect on that. And we can go on from there as far as during the claims process, is your equipment going to be covered on replacement cost value or actual cost value? And this has to do with the value of your equipment, the money that you're going to get back from the insurance carrier after damage is done to your equipment, after it's stolen or something like that, because there is a difference, as we mentioned earlier. There's a difference on a 2-year-old mower, that is lawn mowing tractor that you're using for your business, the actual value of that mower and the replacement cost of that mower. The replacement is going to be to get one that works the same, that's the same year, make, and model, same wear and tear on it, and to get that and get your business back up and running as soon as possible, versus the actual cost value of that mower may be a lot less. A mower with 2 years of wear and tear on it, the value of it could be
And
significantly less.
that's a critical area to ask, because when I ran my business, I actually had replacement cost, not depreciated cost. Because as you all know, a tractor that's 3 years old and it's been running for 3 years, the depreciated cost on that is barely going to get you a down payment on a new piece of machinery. So yes, you may pay a little bit more for a policy that gives you replacement cost, or at least close to replacement cost, but when the event does occur, you're going to be darn glad that you have got that policy. And Drew said we're looking at anywhere from 1 to 4% for this insurance policy based on your equipment. And I don't think you can buy it. I think that's probably the best value insurance-wise you'll get compared to the other three policies that we've talked about. The other thing is make sure that you're adequately scheduling your equipment on the policy. When you get a new piece of equipment, Drew said, do you have a 30-day waiver before you got to get that piece of equipment onto the policy? But you should just make it a routine. You buy a new piece of equipment, right after you write the check and pay for it, you need to call your agent and give them the model number and serial number and get that item scheduled so it's protected under the insurance policy.
And if you ever have any questions, as we mentioned before, if you ever have any questions about your exact insurance policy, you're not getting the answers that you want from your insurance agent or from other sources, always feel free to ask us, shoot us an email, and we'd be happy to take a look and see what we can do to help you out understanding those coverages.
Good, thanks.
Thank you.